Welcome to the third episode of the In-House Club podcast. This time we are in English and we are back international with Pete Johnson and Juan Carlos. How do you say that?
Juan Carlos Gutierrez Zorrilla Delgado Monroy. Keep it short, Juan Carlos Gutierrez.
I'm just gonna say welcome to Pete and Juan Carlos from Love and Respect in New York. Can you tell us about your journey? Why am I talking to you?
Sure. Well, I mean, anyone can go to our CVs, individual CVs on LinkedIn to find our backstory. But I think we would want to share how we met because it's almost like the in-house agency story. So yeah, I was at Cartoon Network, which in the United States was this kind of Wild West creative playground, and I moved to Saatchi Saatchi, and that was my big corporate agency, kind of splash of cold water in my face, like, oh, this is a different place. And I was looking for new creatives, and I had gone through weeks of interviewing teams, like 2 people at once, which I could not get used to. I didn't understand that. I needed an art director and a writer, and they came in together. And this guy and his partner at the time, Jared Elliott, were like just the straw that broke the camel's back. I just like started to vent to them. I felt bad. It wasn't an interview. I was just like, I don't understand this. I need to hire a writer and art director, and you guys come in together. What if I don't like this guy's hat? And Jared's like, what do you mean? Like, well, if I don't like his hat, but I want you, I'm not going to get your package deal. Isn't that weird? And they're like, tell me more. So, but this guy changed my life. When I hired him and his creative partner, he helped get me through that new world I was in at the agency world, because I came from I was born in in-house. Like I like to say, I learned all this on the street when he like went to school.
I would say I'm classically trained, overtrained is what I would say. But yeah.
But anyway, so we met. That's how we met. But what was your perspective on that? Like when?
Well, my perspective was that Pete was getting tapped to build a non-conventional advertising team inside one of the greatest agencies in the planet. And I've always experimented. I love trying new things out. I'm super curious. It's one of my superpowers, and I'm glad I did, because I had no idea the universe that teaming up with Pete was going to give me. And so for us, it was great. I think we lasted less than a year and a half collaborating with each other. And when he announced he was going to Nickelodeon, and my heart sunk, really. And I've said it, this has happened 3 times in our careers, where Pete goes somewhere, he invites me or invites a group of us to join him. And then eventually Pete gets curious and goes somewhere else, and we miss him and we follow him. So that was the beginning of an amazing journey. It was hard to walk away from Saatchi Saatchi at its best back in the day. But for me, it was just about creating the pivot in my life and trying something new. And this is way before anybody I was really talking about going into a brand and building an in-house team. So getting the opportunity to build something from scratch, being a creative and aspiring to be a business leader as a creative in the business. I took that bet on, and I'm glad I did.
I just want to add, he always says that, but he said no to me first.
I did.
I said, let's go to Nickelodeon. Let's build an in-house team from scratch. We got creatives running the show. He's like, I'm good. Not see how that goes. Give me a call.
But it just takes time, right? I mean, people, you have to analyze, you have to observe, you have to strategize.
I respect the thoughtfulness.
Yeah. And then once I did, I was fully committed to that.
That's for sure. Yeah. Anyway, so then we built Nickelodeon as in-house team there together from, and we're very proud that we kind of inherited like 16 or 19 original people, and kind of part of maybe the discussion we'll get into later, they were just a production unit making sizzle reels and tapes for meetings, and it was very low budget, no real briefing process, no real creative direction, just kind of get it out the door type of thing, but mostly for internal work. And of those original 16, I think we kept like 75%, and we just trained them in a different way, gave them different titles. And it wasn't by design. We're like, hey, look, here's what we want to do now. We think you'd work better here. We moved the players on the field around, and most of them lasted a long time doing it. And thrived. But so then we'll touch on Lego too. But then I went to Lego in Billund. My Danish is terrible. But I learned a little bit. But then after I went to Lego, and then you went to Lego.
Yeah. You know, once we wrapped our project at Nickelodeon in the middle of COVID, the team in Lego was looking to hire a creative director for the Americas. And it wasn't by design that I followed Pete. I actually applied. I had to interview quite a bit because Pete had no control over that hire. And at the end of the journey, I came through. So I was like, well, this is meant to be. And I took over the Americas Lego. That's when Pete and I teamed up again, and we basically brainstormed how do we want to build that international hub. What kind of best learnings from our 12 years at Nickelodeon we could on board with Lego, with our new team, and really try on different strategies. So when we started writing about love and respect and talking about this before we even named it Love and Respect, we started really paying close attention to our successes and failures of the time, our time together, to make sure that we were building a sound business. So we focused on a lot of the pain points that as we were building our teams and transforming the Lego agency. And what you see in Love and Respect is essentially the culmination of that study.
So what's that's interesting because you come from Saatchi. So what's the biggest difference from it's different in Denmark because we are so small. So the agencies, you still have a lot of jack of all trades, but I know in the US and UK, you're very specialized. Now I'm answering for you, but what is the biggest difference between working agency side and working in-house, do you think?
Oh, I mean,
come on, jump in.
No, I mean,
it's your thing.
Yes, there's so many differences, but I think just what you were saying, I think in the US and on the agency side, I think we went through a period of specialization, and now it's coming back to more generalists, I think, which is a good thing for everyone. But there's so many different, and you touch on it in your report. There's so many different types of in-house setups, but also just as many on the outside, right? And they're going through a tremendous upheaval right now. So I think a lot of the changes is it's a different relationship with the client, I'll say, or you're the person you're doing the work for, right? If you're at an agency as opposed to in-house. And then that's one thing. The way the work comes in is another thing. Budgets, obviously, processes. I think what I learned at Saatchi was not only creative processes, but creative operations. And that is sometimes lacking in an in-house team. I don't know if I'm...
No, sir. No, well, I mean, you've also talked, Pete also talks about, as of late, that we view this industry as one holistic superpower in terms of creative output. Often we talk about why is there a division between in-house and what Pete used to call, well, like, I was a little aggressive, but I always liked it, out-of-house.
Outhouse.
Right? And the best way to think about it, I think if I'm a CMO in these times, or I'm a CCO on these times, we advise that you look at your teams as one whole team. Never put the division, but focus on what you have under the hood inside your brand. So, for instance, I get really curious. I want to know, when I was looking and interviewing these 40 creatives inside the Lego Americas hub, what were they about? Exactly what Pete did. He looked back there and says, "You're into music, Kasper. Tell me about your love for music." And we began like that, getting to know all of our teammates in Lego. And then we purposely placed them in situations for them to succeed. What does that mean? It's asking them, what is your superpower? What is the thing you do so well? And then you can look at the entire in-house portion of your team and say, these guys are really good at X, Y, Z. It could be experience, it could be print, it could be whatever it is. Then you look at what your marketing teams need. And let's say that they really want a lot of experience, a lot of retail activations, for instance, and you don't have it in your team. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. You accept the fact that is not your remit. You either go and hire it and bring it in, or the solution that we often say is lean into your outside partners, those agencies, out-of-house agencies, and see what they're good and bring them in one at a time, and then have those people actually help you upskill your staff inside the brand. So it's a long journey. It's not about like finishing the project and next. It's really about having a much broader vision around creative operations.
Yeah. And I would add too, like, I guess I understand why it's like in-house and external, right? But that's such a kind of tired argument in our side, but we know you have to do it. You have to do it. That's just the way people are thinking of it. But like Juan Carlos said, there should be no division aside from what the work is. I think there's too many prejudices and preconceived notions on both sides. And that's what we're trying to do with Love and Respect as well, is like smooth that out so that there's a seamless pass through of knowledge and collaboration. There shouldn't be a competition. There should be, it should be your creative team. It is these people, right? Some of them sit outside. And like what Juan Carlos did at Lego, we did a little bit at Lego in Denmark, was working with outside agencies, but embedding them with our team, getting that team embedding in the Lego system and the group, rather than, okay, you guys do this brief and we'll do this.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I know the distinction and try to separate it. It's very old school. I don't think we've seen any 100% either or. I think everywhere we go, it's a gray area in between. How many people, what kind of tasks are you doing in-house, and who are you bringing in from time to time on tasks on top of that? So I totally agree on that. It's interesting the way that you look at it, because when we look at a lot of the agencies that we talk to, it still works as an in-house agency. A lot of places, not everywhere, but a lot of them. So they get briefs from the marketing team. So it's split up from the marketing. So they do the planning, the everything is there, and then you have more like a traditional in-house. It's not everywhere, but a lot of the places that we're talking to. And I think what originally drew me in-house was being part of that discussion. So, as you mentioned, along the way, figuring out that we're not doing that campaign because it doesn't make any sense. Let's do something that's interesting over here that makes much more sense, instead of sitting and waiting for a brief. But I think, and that's the whole collaboration thing. It's very difficult to brief someone on a more elaborate journey, I guess.
I think too, the other thing that you hear a lot, or we hear a lot too, I'm sure you do, is external agencies, they want to be closer to the decision making. They want to be closer to the product or service of their client, right? They want to influence that stuff. My experience in-house, from Cartoon Network to Nickelodeon to Lego, that's one of the best parts and the worst parts of being in-house. I think you have more influence than you do, and you know what's happening, and if it's wrong, it's very hard to. You have to work on your political capital, all that inside, and that depends on your leadership, I think. But I think the real distinction, I think, and that external agencies will never get, is that seat at the table, and just that it can be deliberately said, okay, we are the in-house team for X, or you can just say, I work for this company and I am a creative leader, creative problem solver. That's why I'm at that table. It's not, I'm not the in-house person. I'm the creative problem solver that needs to be at the table. I think that's one of the best reasons to have a more than an exceptional in-house team. Why you should invest in an in-house team.
I totally agree, and I think so. Yeah, you actually put the finger on some of the things that we talk about, because sometimes it's the best part of being in-house is that you're close to the decisions. You also knows what's going on, and you can influence things. You're not coming back a week after and turning the cardboard and say, here it is. Nobody's doing that anymore. That's how old I am. But
we know what you're saying.
but on the other hand, you have to go down to the canteen and eat lunch with them afterwards. So you can't be a total drama queen.
No, exactly.
Because I don't know if you're probably not allowed to say that anymore. Drama person anymore. King or queen or something.
Anything.
You know what I mean. So it both brings tension that you actually have to, behave, but it also sometimes, rough, smoothens the edges on the campaigns a bit, because you don't want to take that discussion that you sometimes otherwise would do when you're an external partner and you come in with all your knowledge and you're the expert being brought in for this.
But Kasper, I agree with you. I think we've talked about this. I almost think there's no such thing as the idea of an external agency, because you still have to get them up to speed on your brand. So if they were truly external, and they wanted that outside, because a lot of the defense from the external agency is like, well, you need that outside perspective, and then they take 4 weeks to be onboarded onto your brand, right? If you truly want the external point of view, you'd want to preserve that, right? And not taint it with the day-to-day. And so, but that never happens, right? I just think, I don't know what you think about that. It just occurred to me, it was an interesting thought.
No, but that's interesting, because on one hand, that's why you want to bring someone in. That's why you work with external agencies. That's because they work with similar clients. They see a lot of different things. They come in with that outside in perspective. So you don't want to onboard them too much. On the other hand, especially when we work, I mean, I don't know how it is with Lego, but some of the companies we work with there, it's like business to business or industrial, where it takes a lot of knowledge to get up to speed. When I was at Saxo Bank, for instance, it was understanding how you did you traded futures and options and so on, and it takes. I mean, at least for me, I can only speak for myself. It takes a while to understand and totally get a grip on of how that works and how you can actually explain it. So I think it also depends on what kind of business you're in, how much just fresh thoughts you can bring in if they don't really get it.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it too. Like that's one of the hardest things to do is as an in-house team, and is to trying to have that outsider perspective, right? Or keep some of that, keep looking outward for what the industry is doing, what competitors are doing, right? You were always good about making sure the team was doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's about being curious. It goes back to that, Kasper. It really is, and it's going to sound really funny coming from to creative experts, but having fantastic world-class processes.
Yeah.
But when you're making that switch from production tactical team, and your ambition now gets to the level of I want to do better and greater work, more strategic work that really impacts the bottom line, you have to make some adjustments. You truly have to get to the idea of how do I bring a creative operations expert to help me go from a very routinous process that you may have, but as you're stepping into a much bigger remit and conceit, you have to make the adjustments. You have to evolve, is what I could say. So
I mean, like you say it in the report, Kasper, the ridiculously low, or sorry, I think it's a low number of the 27% have problems with their briefing process. Like
it's way bigger than that.
I think it's bigger than that. I think people aren't admitting it. We've I mean, it's 100% true, and all the detail behind those numbers is great. It's so true. Again, like the creative process is so important, and it's not what people think of, and or they think creative operations and processes are not. You just need a hotshot creative and great work will come, you know, or creative team. And I think the briefing process is super important. But not only do you need people that know how to write a brief, you also need to train your team and educate the team on how to read a brief, how to mind. Talk about your minding the brief stuff.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I learned so much from him, like how to really dig into a brief.
Well, the truth is that it should be very simple. There are some very, very basic, classically trained learnings that you learn from these schools. Why are briefs more than one page? It defeats the purpose of the name, your Kasper. So I always challenge my partners in strategy and so forth. Hey, can you give me a great one-liner? That's all I need for now. Great one-liner and a couple of insights that I can work off, and I will come back with magic. But it comes back to, again, what is the information inside that one piece of paper, right? And so the reason why we landed and we succeeded so well at Nickelodeon was that the classically trained efforts on how to brief and do that Saatchi was well known for, we brought that over to our team at Nick. And once we were able to actually embed consistent practices around the processes and especially that document, then you get an entire organization embracing a true briefing process, where the marketing person is just as interested in making sure that that document looks great. And someone at my level, if I'm the CCO or the ECD, I want to be focused on that paper. Many times I focus way more on the brief document than I did on the output, because and something we attest that love and respect. If you nail your processes, if you nail your talent acquisitions, okay, then the default.
Great work's coming out of that.
It does.
I mean, I would add creative leadership, and we don't. That's not quite like we missed in the report, but one thing that I think is maybe lacking in the in-house niche or sector now space. Sorry, I don't want to say niche sector area is strong creative leadership, and it's not necessarily their fault, because I mean, as you know, Kasper, like, they start out as short order cooks. They start out as production units and not having to have the big idea, not having to lead teams. And I've benefited greatly from great creative leaders that have helped me learn how to manage creative people. And on the agency side, if you're a creative leader, most of the time you're not a creative leader because you're a really good people person. It's because you've won the awards. And then when we see that kind of migration of agency leaders coming over to the in-house side, they don't have the people experience, the people management experience. That's something that Lego does really well, the people management stuff, especially for leaders. But I learned a lot at Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network as well. That's really important. And that's one thing, again, I love and respect. That's when we're talking to people, we find that we feel like creatives should be leading these in-house teams. Some level of creative person should be leading that team. And we're also, we pray for the hope and pray for the day when CCOs are the ones that become CEOs of some companies too, because that creative problem solving ability, I think, is strongly lacking.
And Kasper, in the email you sent us, you wanted to talk about some of those challenges that we're seeing. And I think personally, if you want your team to be successful and you have that greater ambition, right? It's about the talent that you're going to attract. So you have to have really good talent strategies with your CHR to be able to attract. I mean, what we're seeing is a lot of, there's an ambition, right? I'm the CMO. I look at my team, I assess them, and I go, whoa, I've got me an in-house team. What can I do with this in-house team on a higher level? And they think it's as simple as just bringing the work from the agency work and start doing it. And that couldn't be further from the truth. As a friend of ours in the space told us the other day, oh, so you're looking for unicorns. You mean the people that were doing all the tactical work and now they're asked to
flip a switch?
No, you can't. It doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah. I mean, one thing that we were interested in your report was just the global view and kind of where you put the industry on a kind of a maturity scale, right? So like, seems like UK is fairly mature, Central Europe and Europe is kind of moving up into maturity, and the US is still just kind of finding its way. What do you think? I mean, that's more than just a factor of time, right? Do you think it's the whole geography issue? Like, because it seems like the community in the UK is so tight. I don't see that happening in the US really.
First of all, I have a few comments on what you said before, but I think some of the big in-house teams in Europe, so they're not necessarily creative. I used to work with French brands, and it's creative in a different way, I would say. So it's more Southern European, it's more feel-ish. So I think they're very much focused on the production side and making that work. So that's why, I mean, they are. But production in a look and feel, not necessarily idea driven, if I can say it like that. And I think they spend a lot of time. They have huge in-house agencies in France and Spain and so on. So I think that's where the maturity comes from. They've been doing this for years, and I think the UK is different because it's just been growing, and you have a totally different agency model also in the external agencies with more, the teams coming in on freelance basis, and you're just shopping more around, so to speak. So I think that's the difference, where it's relatively new in Scandinavia, and in US it's also what we can see. We've only been doing this for 5 years, so that it's a different model, but you're also trying to jump a few steps and going in with creative leaders from the beginning. And I think that's the difference. Can I just tap back, because I really love what you said about the processes. That was my big revelation when I started in-house, that actually pointing back at the double bass. So when you play, I used to play at a jazz club in Copenhagen, and I'm not that good. But then we had a lot of skilled musicians coming in and jamming on top of that. And the whole idea of jamming is that you know the song. So I just had to know, let's say, 20, 40 jazz standards that I could, get through. But if you have that process, if you have that standard, then somebody else can be creative on top. You know when to step back and follow, trust the process. And then you can do great solos, creative work on top of that. So I think, and it's kind of the same, when you have that process in place, then you don't change the headlines once you done all the banners and the campaign and the film, because you trust the creative space is in the beginning. That's where you do the brief and you actually try to figure out what are we going to say, not when you have done all the materials to say, I don't really like the blue. Can we try red instead or something like that?
Yeah, I thought that's the same example we go to, like, well, tell me more. I don't like blue. Okay, well, tell me more about that. That was one of my first conflicts in-house, because when I was at an agency, you don't tell me how to fix it. You just tell me, like, you say, well, I don't like blue, and I would say, why don't you like blue? Or I'll hear your points of view, and I will find a solution for changing blue. But I'm not going to change blue just because you want to change it. When I went to Nickelodeon, my first, like, kind of not great interaction with a marketing person, she's like, yeah, I don't like this, change that to whatever. And like, she just kept walking down the hall. I'm like, hold on a second, tell me more about that. She's like, I don't want you to do it, I just want it for this, just because. So it's like, well, that's not enough. And I think that's part of, like, what Juan Carlos started saying. There's something good about it. There's a lot of good about agencies, but then that you can't come in with, like, this ego. You can't come in with the chest out, like agency people to the in-house side. You have to do a more softer approach. But I love your musical analogy better than what we do, because we usually say it's great to have process. We're like, you're two creative guys. We talk about process, but, like, because we would always say, like, because when you're offshore in the ocean, you got to know where the shore is. Like, you're going to be, and every project, like you said in the report, there's so many that just come in ad hoc or without planning, which is shocking. But if you don't have a process, you're going to be drowning. You're going to be totally lost. But if you know, oh, that's where I got to go, or this is the reference point. But I like your musical analogy better. But that's fantastic.
And I just want to take it back for a second, because Pete kind of went around it a little bit when he was talking about the interaction with the marketing folk, and please change this, change that, and do that, right? It's always been an issue. And when you're working at a world-class creative agency, that's not an issue, because people look at the creatives like they're the ones making those calls, right? But ultimately, what Pete realized was that he needed to get down in the business level. So we started actually having a lot of good dialogue with our partners in marketing once we got to understanding that we had to speak their language. So rather than asking, so why do you like blue? Oh my goodness, well, kidneys.
You got it.
Instead of just being a subjective decision and why, he goes back to the question of strategy. So, but I wanted to get back to Pete's story of his interaction with marketing and deciding, well, why blue wasn't right to this person in marketing, and how do you wrestle with somebody about subjective decisions, right? And we found that, and this is a really awesome tip, like, make it about the business. Have the conversation about business, because ultimately your marketing partners, your strategy partners, they are people who speak business. The CEO is interested in understanding why blue is not the right color for a certain kind of vertical. So then when you ask, do you mind expanding? I know you don't like the color, but let's talk about the strategy and business. How does that decision impact the strategy or the decision? And then that marketing person or client or even CEO can say X, Y, Z, and then we as creatives go, oh, that is so helpful. That was not in the brief document. This will actually help us make the work better. And that, for us, when we arrived at that self-knowledge or understanding the power of asking that question at Nickelodeon, things changed drastically. The work got better in no time. It's all about collaboration, really.
One of the things that I experience both in-house, but also I teach sometimes at the Danish School of Advertising, is when you're in-house, you also forget that you do need to do presentations. So because you come in you had a meeting and you had another meeting, and then you pretty much just jump ahead and show your ideas, and you tend to forget, having the whole, the presentation part of it. So we agreed on this last time. This is what we want to do. This is what we want to say, and so on. And I think that's at least where I made most of my mistakes, is jumping in and just assuming that we are on the same page for this, and I can just go ahead and say, so here's the idea, and then you say, but why is he in a restaurant, or why is it blue, or whatever.
I had a real quick story that happened to me in reverse, coming from Cartoon Network, where as a creative director, and the creatives, it was a wonderful place, but also a messed up place, because we were all crazy on. But it never occurred to me, if I'm the creative director on a job at Cartoon Network and I want to change animation companies, that's my call, right? And so I landed at Saatchi and I wanted to change animation companies for, I think it was Lucky Charms and the Leprechaun cereal. And I just did it. I just called the one that Saatchi had been using, General Mills. So we're not going to be working with you anymore. Thanks for your help. And then we're going to use these people. Both great companies, and the other company was going to do more what I wanted to do. I got immediately like summons to Minneapolis to meet with the head of advertising partnerships at General Mills, and she was like, I will paraphrase, she was unhappy with my decision. And I said, but I'm confused. Don't I run the creative business? And she's like, yeah, but you need to get our buy-in. We're paying for it. Maybe it's different from where you came from. And she explained it to me and I understood it. But like that's an interesting kind of friction point, maybe, that if you're coming from in-house to agency to consider, you're in the same, it's not even a different language. It's different customs. And that's going both ways. You need to kind of.
And actually that little experience way back when became very much a pain point or a challenge, as we say in the in-house industry right now, because as the opportunity continues to get bigger and bigger inside our space, more talent is jumping over from those great agencies into the space. Unfortunately, what we're seeing, and you in the report, unfortunately, this was not covered, but I think it's something that we see clear as day from our conversations, is that not all talent is equal. And what I mean by that is you could be very talented at the best strategies that name your agency. But when you're brought over to that brand, you have to do so much more than just the specialization that you're about. So you could be a great creative director or a great creative period. But if you can't put together an offsite to, do the proper training with your staffers and do the reviews and all that good stuff that comes with management inside a brand, you're going nowhere but back to the agency world. And so that, if you think about it on a grander scale for a CHR or for a CCO or whoever's running the agency, you're having very short periods of time that they're staying inside the brand. So they come in, they're there less than a year, they can't acclimate to the culture, and they depart.
Yeah, I would say maybe that could be something you explore in a future barometer. But what we've heard stories of people just failing pretty quickly from the agency side coming to the in-house side. But it's not just their fault. It's also the in-house environment is not flexing to that type of talent or that type of person to give them that transition period, right? It's like, oh, you're great at Saatchi, you'll be great here, and that doesn't always work out. So I think both again, we're going back to the sides, but both of those areas need to work together to help ease the transition in both directions.
And I'll now add to this, Kasper. No AI program is going to help you navigate that. It'll get you a bunch of names. We just saw on LinkedIn this week, like AI, you run everything through it.
You don't need to find the editors or anybody anymore. They'll do it.
You still need the human component to understand that culture inside that brand and understand the strategies. And I'm not buying it yet. I think we still need standout talent people in the space to help us really bring the best talent that can work across the board.
So I just want to, if you could give an advice. Now you've been with Lego, which is a huge in-house ish setup. But also, if you could give an advice, anywhere, what would you focus on? I think the whole creative moving in creative leadership thing is really interesting. That's also something we saw and I'm pointing at the report all the time. The report is, more and more companies are trying to bring in creative leadership. I think what we saw a couple of years back was bringing in brand managers, maybe 10, 15 years. And now when you work more hybrid with different agencies, you need someone to control the creative ideas, still be true to the brand and the core, but shopping. That's just my opinion or my interpretation of the numbers we got back in the report. What would you see is the biggest shift we're seeing at the moment?
I think to the advice, I guess, for the future, I think is to double down on that, on creative leadership. I just don't think it's there. Maybe we're speaking more about the U.S., but we just don't see those strong creative leaders. Simon Au, an example of great creative leader. But I'm sure there's more out there. But there needs to be more, and they need to wear those two hats of have the vision creatively, have the ability to clear the road for that creative team, but also to translate that kind of creative ambition into business speak for the C-suite and for the other people in the organization. I think it's really important, but that's just one, creative leadership is one thing to think about. The other thing would be,
no, for me, it's what I continue beating the drum here. I love and respect, and any teams that I worked on before, it's about consistency, Kasper. You know that word, consistency. All right. This is going to come out of left field, but a long time ago, my brother-in-law, his name is Bruce Sherman. He's a retired world-class chef out of Chicago. He won the James Beard Medal, which is one of the highest honors that you can receive as a chef. He won it after being nominated more than 9+ times. Might have been 11 times he was nominated. So think about it. 11 times he finally wins it. The Chicago Press does a big deal about it, and they interview him on TV, and I catch the interview. And this is what I heard. I heard him saying, being asked, Chef Sherman, what do you owe the success of your kitchen this year around? You finally accomplished getting this huge bestowed award. And knowing Bruce and how dry-witted he is, he looked at this woman like he was upset. He's like, "What are you talking about? What we did this year? This is not a game, but this is an industry about consistency. My chef, my sous chefs, all of them have been playing and doing these recipes by the T with consistency all throughout. And eventually, once you do that so well, you see the net results. I saw that. I came to Pete and I said, hey, I got the perfect thing for us to get really on page about how we're going to succeed as creative leaders in this industry. And I shared with Pete. And from that point on, it has been about that. And that applies to your processes, how you wake up in the morning. It's about being disciplined. It's a creative industry, but it can stand some discipline in some processes.
And you can be disciplined and still be more casual and laid back. You know what I mean? You can still have that creative freedom, but that goes back to process. And again, it's leadership and creative operations and consistency.
Yeah,
those are the three things.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's I think it's in page 3 in one of the books I've written about consistency. Is that's one of the main benefits of being in-house, and you can still do things up top of it. I mean, from this year Cannes Award, it was the Kit Kat Have a Break that won Grand Prix, which is a campaign slogan running for, I don't know, 25, 23 years or something like that. You still see Specsavers around the world. That's the same idea that came out in the 90s. So, and then you have the whole visual brands like Coca-Cola, Burger King, whatever, McDonald's, building, great ideas on top of consistency. So I think consistency is, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about Love and Respect now that we are kind of at the end. What are you about?
Yeah, so Love and Respect is a creative advisory firm, and we help brands form and transform their in-house teams. We also work with agencies as well, mostly on the culture side, because a lot of agencies are having difficulty with their culture right now. That's what we concentrate on.
Yeah, and it's really about, we wrote about it, we built it around our values. Pete and I are two executives who tend to stay a long time in the place. I think we landed on the big idea when we uncovered a lot of data of our former teams, and we found ourselves realizing, hey, how long do our teams actually stay with us? We dug in and discovered, this is before COVID, that in New York City, the average tenure of a creative, world-class creative was less than a year and a half at an agency. Okay. And this was a big article. It was somebody named it the crisis in the creative departments is there, which made me curious. I went and ran the numbers in our team at Nickelodeon, and we discovered that we were clocking 7.5 years on average. Most folks would not leave us until they were ready for,
Something bigger,
something much bigger. And we, as sad as we were about splitting our community, we felt emboldened at the fact that we were actually building business leaders in our teams, and we loved it. And so when we think about everything that we want to do for the in-house industry,
with Love and Respect,
it's that we want to create spaces where people feel safe, where they want to do their best work, and that they will never ever regret going down this path. Pete always talks about, how many careers, how many people have been robbed of amazing creative careers
with the agency world, just the way it chews you up, chews you up, spits you out, doesn't seem to care. And that's, I think the in-house, I get what we said earlier. It's such a spirit of collaboration, and camaraderie, and also challenging, raising the bar, which I think is interesting. And you're not competing with each other. You want to do great work for the entire industry. And I think that's why we're really happy to have Love and Respect help that community.
And it's not just us, to be clear. We're the principals in the firm, but we're backed up by anywhere between 15 and 20 subject matter experts in all the levels that we're talking about. We certainly have some world-class producers and project managers and operations people, because that's what we feel is the key to creative success and creative leadership in the company. So yeah, thank you for giving us the
that's
platform,
amazing. I also know you have a newsletter. How can people sign up for that so they can know more?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thanks for mentioning that. So you can go to our website, loveandrespect.world, and there's a sign up there for the Love and Respect letter. We just finished writing in August. We're going to publish August.
Yeah, this was going to be about building communities
at work and elsewhere. And then we've had about 3 months of them so far. And that's a better way to see our thought process and kind of our philosophy.
Oh, that's really interesting. Thank you so much for jumping on. We haven't even talked about how early it must be for you. It's not that early, right? It's no.
Oh no. It's almost time to. Yep.
We have dogs, and we get up early. We're 5 in the morning. We're up and about running and taking care of stuff. Not enough hours in the day. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
It was great to see you pass through.
Well, thank you so much for coming. It was really, really interesting. I hope. I enjoyed it at least. So I hope you also had a great time.
Kasper, I think the work you're doing is fantastic with this podcast, even though it's just starting. From our point of view here in the United States, we're seeing a very collaborative vertical, if you would, in the in-house. People are really helping each other. You go to any conferences in general that talk about this subject. It's collaborations. Here's what I'm building. What are you building? And helping each other out. So I think that the mission of you starting this podcast is actually something that our niche needs it. And so that's the main reason why we're coming on to join you on this, because we want to help this community. We want to build an in-house community that we can all be proud of. And just wanted to say that. Thank you so much for
thank you for inviting us.